Hello. Hello, my name's Natalie McGuinness, and I will be starting my session very shortly. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me for my session today. My name is Natalie McGuinness, and I will be looking at utilising a Google-powered classroom. So I took this presentation to BET, which is a very large education show in the UK, but I've since been able to expand from it. So hopefully you'll be able to get some useful tips of how you can use Google in your classroom. I've tried to keep it based around how we use it at our college, but it can be adapted to all age groups. So within our institution, I work at the Sixth Form College in Farnborough. Our issue is that we have a growing population of students coming to join us. So we currently have around 3,700 students, but we are also facing some large budget cuts. Sixth forms have been hit quite badly recently. So with that, we had to adapt. Our class sizes have become a little bit larger. We've been used to, say, 18 in a class. We're now seeing around 24 sitting the same courses, but within a single class. So we had to find a way to deliver our material, but in the most cost-effective way possible. This is an example. So I teach economics at the moment, and one of our resources is we would give all of our students a self workbook. Within this, there were 5 individual tasks that the learners had to go away and complete one task each week. Now, for our economics groups, we had about 190 students that we were photocopying this for, and this work pack was at least 10 pages long. That's a fair amount of our budget already being eaten into. So we decided to use Google Classroom to help us out. So each week we would set our task on Google Classroom. And thankfully now Classroom has allowed each student will get a copy, which makes the organization of your folders a lot nicer. I was also able to see when students had handed the work in and also chase up those that had not done their work. The due date, that very, very nicely links up with the calendars on their phones. So this means that they had no excuse to forget my homework. We also decided that we needed to have all our resources in one place. Things happen, people have to go to the doctors or they need to go to uni open day. And we were finding that some of our students were missing lessons and it was quite reliant on us as teachers to have to share all our work with them. So we've decided to create these central sites so that learners can click onto our booklets, they can access the presentation and the fill-in notes as they go. It's also quite useful for revision as well. So they're able to go back and look through the notes, make sure they've got everything they need. I've added in an exam guidance folder as well. So I'm going to populate that with student responses and support for how they can achieve their best possible grades within their exams. This is particularly useful for us as well because our course has become a linear course. So our learners will sit their exams at the end of the 2 years. So trying to remember what they had for dinner last week is a bit of a nightmare, let alone what they learned in September when they first joined the college. We've decided that we've also got the opportunity where we can create entirely online courses. So a couple of years ago, we set up the CTEC business course and we decided that we wanted to run it entirely paperless. So our learners bring their own paper and notes in, but actually our course material is delivered through sites, through Classroom, all via the computers. They also then submit their coursework online and our moderators have thankfully been very supportive of this and they quite like that they can access all the different students without having to lug around lots of coursework. Our course, when we first set this up, we believed we'd have about 18 to 20 students and we ended up with 5 groups, which is close to about 100 students signing in. But it didn't actually necessarily cost the college more money to run that course. It was just the resources of making sure we had access to computers. So it was more of a classroom designation issue rather than a cost issue. Now, we also found that we could use this online aspect, the Google platform, to provide feedback to our learners. We also were able to find ways to push our learners a little bit more than what we'd be able to do within just the 4 walls of the classroom. So I set my mum a challenge and I asked her, so she teaches GCSE textiles, I asked her to create a YouTube video whereby she had to show the learners how to create this lovely bird made out of CDs. And they had to watch it for their homework, come into class the next day and get straight into it. And the students at the end of the lesson said they felt empowered. They loved the fact that there was differentiation. So those that could just get the basics still had a finished bird. And those that wanted to take it a little bit further, some of them were creating cages for their lovely birds to sit in, and they were able to try out different aspects. They liked the fact that the class had a pace. My mum is working to restricted time conditions where she only has 50 minutes to try and complete pieces of art. So for her, it was lovely in the fact that the kids could just get started straight away. And like I've said before, there was the extension work where they could push themselves if they'd got to the final point. So my mum here, hopefully this will work. So there's a little sneak preview, but by all means, if you've got a spare 5 minutes, you can jump on and find my mum's video on YouTube where you can make your own Sean Avery bird. Now, I also wanted to bring this Google Doc aspect into the classroom. And I have some talented learners taking the economics course, but I felt that I wanted them to learn from one another. So I decided that for one of my lessons, I would get them to complete a piece of homework, but that they would do it as a pair. They didn't have to sit near each other in the classroom, which meant that I got students working together who wouldn't have necessarily chosen to work together. And together they were able to piece this homework, bringing both of their knowledge together. Down the side, you can see the revision history. So you're able to pick out those that have maybe put more effort in than the other. It also highlights exactly where the student has written. This is quite a nice even split for Rob and Emily, but you're able to see when maybe you get a bit of a free rider student who isn't pulling their weight in a group. For our CTEC as well, we are offering feedback on a regular basis. Our CTEC has grown quite substantially as well. So within a class, we can maybe see about 22 students. Now, 22 bits of coursework to mark in one hit can be quite stressful. So we've decided to take a new approach that when the learners are sat in our classroom, if they're looking for a little bit of advice on how their work is doing, we can open it up on our screens and we can give real-time feedback. So this student wasn't doing particularly well, so I had to highlight it and make a little comment on the side. But this takes away some of the stress for the teachers. We can see where the errors are happening instantly and we can make the changes while the students are sat in front of us. Also, if they've met the criteria, then it means we can mark it there and then and not have to worry with a big load of pile of marking building up. For me, this has been an absolute lifesaver this year. I've been able to make sure that all my students that need to be pushed have been, and those that need a little bit more support can have more of my time. I know where to focus my energies in lessons. So I found some real benefits by adopting the Google platform. Kind of a summary really of everything I've spoken about. Students can access our resources via sites at any time. So no longer do they have to email me at ridiculous times in the morning to say, can you quickly send me the work? They can do it at their own pace. I love the fact that the deadline's linked to the calendar. Because I've set the work as well, I also get a reminder, which is quite useful because when you're teaching various classes, you do sometimes forget. So it's been really handy for me. All coursework sits in one neat folder on Drive and we can access that at any point. We're able to share it with our moderator, so she's able to see exactly what's been going on and look at the revision history. We've seen that there's a reduction in cost for our resources, so we can redirect the funds to maybe some teacher training, or we've actually been able to get a lot of guest speakers in this year because we've not had to spend it on things like photocopying. The real-time feedback, really handy for making sure that our students are on track. Collaboration, which is a key thing for me at the moment. I'm very passionate about this idea of collaborative work. And I think if we can start building those study skills in, then it puts them on the right track for university. And that's really important because our learners come to us getting used to the school environment, that suddenly college is a real big transition and university even more so. So getting them used to this independent form of study, getting them used to collaborative work, puts them on the right stead. Now, I had a second challenge that I also wanted to approach. We have students in our economics course that mainly want to go on to take financial courses at university and eventually end up in the financial district. But those courses tend to be the oversubscribed courses. And the learners have to show dedication to their studies above and beyond just their A-level grades. They have to appear more competitive. But we're already tight for funding. So we had to try and develop an additional course or an enrichment that meant it gave our students a competitive edge. So we had this financial baccalaureate designed, which interlinks business, economics, and accounting, but in real world scenarios. And students are supposed to be getting a better understanding of how decisions are made in both their personal lives and within businesses. For this baccalaureate, I have ensured that we've covered topics that they are likely to study at university and that also have real life applications. So we've looked at things like student loans, inflation. Compound interest was a very, very exciting one to look at when they could see how much debt they might end up in or how much money they could end up saving if they started saving now. So I've broken it down into the different units. I'm aware it says 10 units on there, but I've only screenshotted 9. My apologies. And I'm going to focus in just on one to show you how the course has been set up. So we're going to look at the statistical modelling part 1, which focuses on why airlines choose to overbook their flights. I thought this was quite a nice topic as we've had some personal experience of that, and I wanted the students to understand why businesses maybe made that choice. So I'm currently studying a master's with Roehampton University, and I decided to follow the layout of how my work is set out, because if I'm having to cope with this, then eventually our learners might have to as well. So within each topic, they have a preview and objectives page. They have a folder full of media. There's a looking ahead for the next unit. There's an introduction to the topic, the assignment itself, and then the readings. And they have access so they can view all of this. If we open up the readings, I have included some news articles showing both the positives and negatives in this instance relating to overbooking airlines. I've also used some research papers, all dated within the last 5 years and peer reviewed. And then I also want our learners to begin to understand Harvard referencing. So to know that they can put in their own viewpoints, but they need to support it with data. And they need to pay respect to the people that have come up with those ideas originally. So every unit has the Harvard referencing quick guide that they can access so they can practice their Harvard referencing. If we look in the media, so this was my toughest challenge. I wish I could just drop videos into a folder, but I know that option doesn't exist. So I had a little scour around to see if I might get videos into my media folder. And I found this amazing app from Google called Video Notes. And it means you can do a split screen. So the YouTube video sits on one side, and then they have a notepad on the other, so they can listen to the video and take instant notes, meaning it's really easy for them to refer back to. And it automatically saves in their drive, right in the folder that they've accessed it from. So it's useful for them. They can access it really easily. Now, the task was an important thing for me. I wanted them to get used to writing at a university standard, and I wanted them to understand that they had to stay within a word limit to reduce the idea of waffle, which some of them certainly get on the waffle train. So I've put a word limit into every assignment of 500 words, and they can move 10% above or below it. I've also left the assignments as an open-ended question. I want them to utilize their information, and I want them to bring their personal opinion into this, but it has to be supported by data. I've also offered some tips because this is the first time they've really written some open-ended essays. So there's some guidance in there of what sort of aspects they should be considering. Every post is then not only submitted to me through Classroom, but they post it on their own bloggers or on various other e-portfolios so that they begin to build their online presence. This can then be referred to during job interviews or at university. And it's just to create a bit of a professional online presence. I want them to have something that they're proud of, that they've put all the information together, and that they've answered these challenging questions. There's a nice little quote there from Nelson Mandela saying, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." Thank you so much for listening to me. I hope this has been useful. I have some questions that have come through, so I'm going to hopefully try and answer them. Okay, so I've had a question saying, do you have a computer for each student in your classroom? We do have computers in some of our classrooms. We've also invested in some of the Chromebook trolleys. So we have a trolley of about 20 Chromebooks and then a few extras in our office. So we have 4 trolleys in our department, which can be wheeled between the classrooms wherever they're needed. And the Chromebooks are so useful. They're really light. We can access all of the necessary stuff. Do students mainly use PCs or mobile devices to do their homeworks? I try to make sure that they are just using PCs, because I think staring at the small screens for quite a while isn't very ideal for them. But I am aware that sometimes they forget and might complete their homework on the train into college, so some might end up using their mobile devices. They can certainly access the readings via tablets or on their phones. Do you use e-textbooks as part of your course, or is all the material teacher generated? For our CTEC course, there is an online textbook. They are currently in the transition of changing the course. So not all of the units have been completely written in the textbook. So a lot of the material is teacher generated, but this is entirely collaborative. So it's not all the pressure of one teacher having to do this. This is everybody bringing in their knowledge, their understanding of the key aspects of whatever topic we're studying. Hi, where do you get video notes? So I found it in the App Store. So when you're trying to connect more apps, I typed in video and it came up instantly. So it's just a case of searching through the Google Store. I want to know how this can work for early primary. Well, I'm pretty sure my little nephew knows how to work an iPad better than me, which is a bit embarrassing. But I think finding ways to have interactive work on iPads means that the little learners can already engage in different articles. Obviously, we'd pitch them at the right standard, but just having videos played via Classroom means that if the students go home, maybe parents can see the sort of videos that they're supposed to be looking at as well. Is there any way to stop students resolving comments you have provided? Yeah, we get this quite a lot where they end up saying resolve on the comments, but thankfully, if you click on the comments box up the top, you can then reopen any case that they've closed, which, yes, has been very useful this year. I noticed in the picture of the online course, they are using pen and paper for note-taking. So this is an entirely personal thing. Some of our students do tend to split the screen and will type straight into their own Google Doc. Others do still like the old-fashioned pen and paper, having notes that they can refer to. So it is entirely personal for them. As I say, I kind of like to let them learn in the best way that they see fit. At least this way they can refer back to it in their personal preference. Okay. Which was the app used for the split screen? The Video Notes app, I think, is the one you're referring to, where you can have the video on one side and the note page on the other. It does it all itself. You just have to pop the link in for the YouTube video. As a novice, where do I get started? Really interesting question. And to be honest, I'm just going to say play. So if you open up your own Gmail account, you can play on a personal aspect. Google Docs and Slides and Sheets, they do have a lot of the aspects of the more traditional programs that you might have used. So adapting is very easy. I personally love the fact that I can use Drive though, because it means I don't ever have to worry about having memory sticks or having to make sure that I've got it on a CD or on my phone or something. I can access my Drive, whatever. So what I will say is just play. Okay, just play with the different apps. If something goes wrong, thankfully Google can always, you can revise the history. You can go back to maybe something that was a better form of what you've written. Okay, I think that's it. So I'm going to leave you for now. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you enjoy the other sessions that you tune into. Okay, thank you.